Joe, we're excited about college football being back, and welcome to the show. So let's start where you are, and let's start with this game right here. Number 4, Ohio State. Buckeyes have won 4 straight Big Ten titles. Who is the biggest threat to ending Ohio State's dominance in the Big Ten?
Man, that's a good question because I don't see a threat really in sight. You know, the top of college football, and this is true not just in the Big Ten, guys, but it's true across college football. Clemson has totally separated themselves out from the ACC. Oklahoma has done similar things in the Big 12. Alabama, you could say, has done that not only to the SEC, but really maybe even to the country, winning 6 of the last 12 national championships. It speaks to the top-heavy nature of the sport. If there is a team that I'm high on in the Big Ten, though, it's Wisconsin. We're going to see them on Saturday against Penn State. That's a heck of an opener. They're going to get them at home, which is going to help, but they're going to be very tough on defense, and if Graham Mertz, their quarterback, can play like he did to start last season versus the way that he finished last season, then they could have a heck of a team. I think they're going to have a solid running game, and then they'll be more explosive in the passing game than they've been in the past. So if you're asking me who's the best potential threat, I think it's the Wisconsin Badgers.
I like it. Now, Klatt, you know you're my guy. College football, you know it's my sport. So let's talk. You don't get a second chance at a first impression. Now, Texas has a new head coach. Clemson has a new quarterback. Ohio State has a new quarterback. LSU was in the dregs of the SEC last year. Who needs to make a good first impression this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And actually, you mentioned the team that I was thinking about coming into this. I think it's LSU. Now, granted, they've got some serious circumstances that are way bigger than football that are surrounding their program right now, right? And the entire region. And obviously our hearts and prayers go out to everybody in the Gulf region that's been affected by the hurricane. Having said that, the way that they won the championship 2 years ago with a historically great team, and then the way that they fell off the face of the planet last year at LSU, this is a monster year for Ed Orgeron. And they open up in a really tough game, not environment, didn't say environment, game, right? Because I don't think the Rose Bowl is going to pose some sort of hostile environment to LSU. In fact, there might be more LSU fans than there are UCLA fans. But that run game for UCLA is pretty potent. And if Dorian Thompson-Robinson plays well, then, or better than he did last week, then I think that this could be a game late. And you never know where the mindset is of those LSU Tigers. They got a new quarterback. It's Brad Johnson's son, Max. I think that this is a tough opener, and this team has to have some success early in the year, or else people are going to be wondering, is Ed Orgeron the guy who won the national championship, or is he the guy that's been fairly middling for the rest of his career?
Yeah, I think my former coach and Marcellus's former coach, Chip Kelly, will actually give LSU all they can handle this time around. But let's talk about the coach of my former team, Coach Sark. Yeah. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about him. Marcellus knows him well, former neighbors. But, Klatt, what do you expect to see from Sark in Texas, not only in the opener, but what are your expectations this year?
So I'm high on Sark and Texas, okay? I think this was a great hire, and people can talk all they want about what happened at USC, but remember that was a personal struggle for that individual, Steve Sarkisian. Okay, I don't think that was an indictment of what he is as a coach, and I think that you can separate the two out. I've talked with a lot of players and people who have coached with Sark, and they all vouch for him, and they say if he's right personally, guy's a heck of a coach. His track record suggests as such. Remember now, he took over a winless Washington team. Okay, so Washington was 0-12 the year before Sark got there. They hadn't had a winning season since all the way back when Rick Neuheisel was the coach. So they had been kind of an average college football program for the better part of a decade. He got there, immediately made them better, made them a winning program, took them to bowl games, and ultimately built the foundation that then Chris Peterson used to take that organization, that program, to the playoff. He's that guy, right? And I think that he has learned personally how to deal with the things that he needs to deal with. He has learned from great coaches now, being a part of Nick Saban's staff. He put together a terrific staff at Texas. He's got a very talented roster, and I know that they're very high on their new quarterback, Hudson Card. Talented kid. And then here's the kicker. And, Acho, I know this is the one that you're going to love. Bijan Robinson might be the best player in college football. Right? Like, he is Marcellus. He's that dude, man. I'm like, give him the ball 20 times, and we might be talking about a double-digit win season for the Longhorns.
Yes, sir.
Okay, respect to that. We weren't supposed to talk Texas football. It's not on the script because we're only going to talk about the top teams. But, okay, I love me some Sark.
You knew that was coming, though. I didn't see it on my question. I was like, I almost looked at my phone like, wait, that question wasn't in there, but I knew it was coming.
Wi-Fi working in the stadium. But that said, Acho talked about it earlier, and the young quarterbacks, first-year quarterbacks in terms of starting opportunities at Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, even Notre Dame. Of those schools, which one do you have the most belief in?
Well, I have the most belief, and it's not because of this guy as an individual, although he's very talented, but I have the most belief in C.J. Stroud for Ohio State that we'll see here tonight. And here's why. Again, this is nothing against those other individuals. I just think C.J. Stroud has a better supporting cast than anybody else, right? Like Bryce Young at Alabama, he's a hell of a player, but look at what they're trying to replace, right? So he's going to be playing with a lot of unproven players. That's tough to do as a quarterback. DJ Uiagalelei no longer has Travis Etienne, who was the ACC's all-time leading rusher, right? So, I mean, that's difficult to do. Meanwhile, C.J. Stroud tonight, guys, when you watch this game tonight, he's playing behind an offensive line that over the course of their career as a whole, these 5 guys may earn $250 million in NFL contracts. Like, they're, I think, potentially the best offensive line in college football. They've got a 4-man deep running back rotation with a guy that a lot of people in college football circles are the most excited about of any young freshman, Travion Henderson. Can't wait to see him tonight. They've got the best core of wide receivers led by Chris Olave, and then a stable of 5-star number 1 wide receivers in the country, including Marvin Harrison Jr., who's an absolute stud. They've got potentially the best tight end in the country in Jeremy Ruckert. He could be the Mackey Award winner. So if you're asking me, like, which quarterback might impress? I'm like, give me that car. Give me the keys to that car, and I'll impress you. Like, I think I could play quarterback for Ohio State tonight and do pretty well, although C.J. Stroud's going to do much better. So I have a lot of faith that C.J. Stroud's going to have a big year and turn into a huge star.
Hey, Klatt, you making Marcellus feel old, man, because you mentioned Brad Johnson's son.
Stop.
And then you mentioned Marvin Harrison Jr. I already make him feel old because I got a full head of hair, but Klatt, you ain't got to add insult to injury, my guy.
Oh, my God.
Klatt, you mentioned a lot of stars, so let's talk big picture. For those that are loose college football fans, who do you think should be or will be the Heisman favorite heading into the season?
Okay, so my Heisman favorite is the Oklahoma quarterback, Spencer Rattler. Haven't mentioned him yet because he's an experienced guy, and I think that's going to pay dividends for him. That Oklahoma team, they might be the most complete OU team since dating back to 2008. And Acho, you remember those OU teams with Gerald McCoy up front on the defensive side, Sam Bradford as their quarterback, Jermaine Gresham as the tight end. They're deep like that this year because they can actually play defense. I think this is a team that could potentially run the table. If he puts up OU-style numbers from the quarterback position, we've already seen what happens to the quarterback at that program for Lincoln Riley. What happens? Well, Baker won the Heisman. Kyler Murray won the Heisman. Jalen Hurts finished second. Like, he's going to be in that vein. So my favorite for that trophy is going to be Spencer Rattler, the QB for OU.
Okay, well, since Acho took us there to the bottom-tier teams, unranked Michigan, let's start there, opens up against Western Michigan this weekend, and we know the big star of their team is actually their coach, and Jim Harbaugh, still looking for his Big Ten title, heading into his 7th season in Ann Arbor. Is this, for real, a make-or-break year for Harbaugh?
So I read that question, and I started thinking, I'm like, well, yeah, every year's a make. And then I started thinking to myself, and I would love your guys' thoughts on this too. Can it be a make or break year if there's no expectations? Because for the first time in my career doing this job, like there's no expectations around Michigan. Guys, it's eerily like quiet around the Wolverines right now. They're going to go with Cade McNamara as their quarterback. There's no expectations. They're not talking about trying to beat Ohio State. They're not talking about Jim Harbaugh getting to the playoff. They gave him a new contract extension that really wasn't an extension because it cut his salary in half, unheard of in college football, in particular in a year in which Jimbo Fisher just signed a deal that's going to extend him at $9 million a year. So, I mean,
but Klatt, let me ask you.
I don't know if it's I think that the fan base for Michigan is setting themselves up to be okay mentally if they're 8-4.
But how bad is that? Because I'm just a college football fan. I like when big programs do big things. USC, Penn State, Ohio State, Bama, Clemson, Michigan, Notre Dame. College football is better when the big programs are bigger. How does that make you feel as a college football fan talking about Michigan in they're just going to concede to losing to Ohio State, concede to going 8-4. What's that mean for the sport?
Well, it's not good. I mean, I think that the sport obviously would love to have the Wolverines at the top level. The Big Ten would love to have the Wolverines at the top level. And this is not a knock, but it makes me feel kind of like I felt for a decade about Texas, right? Like, can you please join the party, the University of Texas, right? And we've been waiting and waiting. There was 1 year they made that rush to the Sugar Bowl and played great with Sam Ehlinger. But those two programs, and then to a lesser extent maybe, but equally in that conversation is USC. Yep. Those three programs have got to at some point rise up and say, we're going to compete with the big boys. The big boys have clearly separated themselves out. Okay, when you look at the teams that are in the top 5 in the AP right now and you add Notre Dame, guess what you see? You see every playoff representative in the last 4 years except for one. LSU is the only program that had a playoff berth outside of the current top 5 and Notre Dame in the last 4 seasons. That's not good for college football. We need to spread this out a little bit. So I'm calling on you, Texas and Michigan and USC. You guys have got to get better. And I think that, it speaks to the point. The sport is better when there's a little bit more parity and we get a little bit more national in our scope rather than kind of the regional-centric college football that we've had over the last decade.
All right, Klatt, you're calling programs out. I got to call you out because you recently put out your top 5 college football helmets, and it's no surprise. You had the Colorado Buffaloes.
There's no flaws in that ranking.
Let's see.
No flaws, no bias. He got his Buffaloes ahead of my Longhorns. Then he has Notre Dame, Michigan, Alabama. Marcellus, I don't know if Columbia had football helmets or if y'all
don't do that.
But I need you to settle the debate, Sal.
Yeah.
Which school got the nicer helmets, man?
Well, in the Ivy League, we pride ourselves of actually owning the companies that make the helmets. Let's say this. I got to disagree with this ranking right here. I love me some Colorado. Growing up, that was my school. Texas has the best colors, but the best uniform, best helmet is not even on here. It's Penn State. It's not even a conversation. So, Penn State's number 1 to me. But out of Colorado and Texas, I got to go Texas over that.
My dog.
Oh, man, that's rough. Well, listen, that might have been a little biased on my part, right? Because you guys have to understand. I'm 5 years old. My dad gets some tickets to go see the University of Colorado play Brian Bosworth's Oklahoma team in 1986 in Folsom Field. I fell in love with the sport. I saw the Buffalo run. Like, it was my dream ever since. I'm living my dream now, being a part of college football. So that helmet is always going to be special to me. I got to wear it. So it's definitely biased. There's no doubt. Penn State, by the way, I don't know about Penn State. Great uni, bad helmet. Great uni, bad helmet.
I can take that. The Kajana Carter jersey, like you said when you were 5 years old, as a youngster, that Kajana Carter jersey did some things to me. Well, thanks, Joel, and have a great call tonight, big dog.
All right, Klatt.
My man.
Love it. Great talking with you guys. Have a good afternoon.
Yes, sir.
You too, brother.